Hello. So Thursdays now, you totally threw it off my schedule, especially now that I'm off Wednesdays. Of course, I'm off every day right now, so I guess that doesn't really matter. Uh, so as for fighting, yeah, I mean, I've been in a few fights in my life. Nothing serious, more. No, I don't think any punches thrown. More like a headlock wrestling type thing. Boys will be boys. Nothing really sticks out. The only one that really kind of sticks out, and I don't even remember how the fight started, but it was cafeteria, junior high school, and at the fight we got sent to the principal, vice principal's office, and I just remember sitting there with him, and we ended up, joking around, and so 5 minutes later we're friends, and I think that's the way a lot of guy fights are. Uh, they'll beat each other up 1 minute, and the next minute they'll be friends. I know myself. I don't know if I have a temper. I mean, I guess I do a little bit. I mean, I also Irish Italian. I don't know if that means anything, but I'm a very emotional person, and also being a very quiet person. I think I bottle too much in, and then every now and then if I get pushed too far, I can let it out. I almost like Ralphie from the Christmas Story when he like goes crazy on the bully. For me, it's more, especially as I get older, it's more verbally than physically attacking someone. But uh, but yeah, listening to your two stories, uh, starting with the second one. Uh, I respect the fact that you were sticking up for your friend. But what I would say, I mean, I said you were a kid, assuming they were just verbally picking on her, I kind of feel physical violence shouldn't be the answer to verbal abuse. And going for the groin should be a last resort. I mean, obviously, everyone knows it's a weak spot on guys, but if it hasn't been explained, like somebody we're talking, it's kind of like being hit in your funny bone, but times 1,000. And if you're ever in a situation where you really need to take someone down, you go that way. So roundhouse kick isn't the way to go. You're probably, even if you don't block, you're probably going to hit the side of the leg or just graze it. You just want to go straight up. I don't know if this is advice I should be giving, but you know. But the first one you talked about, I think, was a little more interesting because the kid, he said the kid had teased you, he tripped you, probably, as you've talked about before, when people make fun of other people and stuff like that, it's usually more about their own insecurities. I even know for myself, I was teased a little when I was a kid, being the quiet kid, but really wasn't by the popular kids. Kind of by the ones a little like lower down, on the totem pole. I guess they finding someone lower, it made them feel better. I might not have been friends with them, but I generally got along with the popular kids. I was quiet and I was a people pleaser. But yeah, I mean, so my guess would be, without knowing the whole situation or the kid, it was probably less about hurting you than it was about looking cool in front of his friends. You know, Tripping you, I guess, technically falls under physical. You could have, if you fell the wrong way, you could have seriously hurt yourself, broken a wrist or something. Uh, you know, and by slapping him, you made a point and it stopped. Uh, I think the problem is at that age, it's hard to rationalize with someone and find another way out. Unfortunately, I think this kind of more portrays into like what's going on in the world because I think I'd like to say as an adult you should be able to talk things out, but unfortunately there are some adults who you can't have these conversations with and won't look at things rationally. I generally think violence should be self-defense, a last resort. I mean, if someone's attacking you, you should be able to defend yourself. I would even say defending someone else who's being physically attacked. Can it be done to make a point? Like in your situation, yes. There probably are times, but it's a very slippery slope. When because we all with different political views and stuff, the terrorist attack or these attacks on innocent policemen because other policemen have done something wrong, feel like it's making a point. So I'm not really in favor of that. I think there might be situations, politically where it is necessary, but it, it is a tricky situation. Also, just thinking about you're talking about the bar fights in California versus the East Coast. I will say I think there is a certain attitude in I feel in the Northeast or maybe even northern cities, a feeling of toughness. You know, living on Long Island, close to New York City, you see that the New Yorkers are tough. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So I think that can bring out something, whereas the perception of Southern California is laid back. But as for the litigious thing, I think that is everywhere, and I think it's to a certain extent stop some of the fighting. I knew someone who was a high school kid at the time, and the story I heard, I wasn't there, but his friend was being picked on. I don't know if it was just verbally or physically. I got the feeling they might have been pushing him around a little bit. So this kid, he apparently headbutted one kid and broke his nose and punched another, and he ended up getting sued and or having charges pressed against him, and did like a few hundred hours of community service. Someone said, if this was 20 years ago, it would have just been boys being boys, and nothing would have happened. Uh, as for bar fights, I don't know how much the participants in the fight are thinking about lawsuits at the time. Because if a fight starts, there are emotions. Is there alcohol involved? I'm guessing 90. I'm just making up the stat, but 90% of adult fights probably involve alcohol. Uh, but it's more I would say the bar owner who not only doesn't want to be sued because there is a fight at his bar, someone gets injured, um, doesn't want his place wrecked up. You know, I don't go to a lot of bars, but as I mentioned in previous Naked Truth, my brother-in-law does a side thing where play some musical gigs, so I go out to see them, and they're usually bar restaurant places. Like also tonight, I think it's called Pub and Grill. So it does have a bar section plus a table section. And it's just once every few weeks or so, but all the time I've seen one fight. From what we could tell happened, one guy fell over, knocked into another, knocked a table over onto this woman. Then the woman's boyfriend, husband, got up and a fight started, but it was broken up very quickly. Um, like I said, you probably don't want a lawsuit, don't want the place wrecked up. You know, police were called just to make sure everything was handled right. So I think probably everywhere fighting has went down, and I know you were saying it's unheard of where you are, but I just wonder if it's doesn't happen or just you're not aware of it. I mean, a bar fight's not going to make the news, especially in or around a major city, unless someone is killed during the fight. And more or less, they probably happen in. There's certain bars that are probably more likely to happen in than others, and my guess is you're probably not hanging out in those places. So I feel it probably does happen a little more on the East Coast, but I think it's less everywhere now than it used to be, just the way society has changed, which, well, I feel we, there are probably too many frivolous lawsuits. I guess cutting down on fights is a good thing. Yeah, so I guess in the end, I would say, yeah, I would love to say fighting is never the answer, but I do think there are times where, you know, as a last resort, self defense, there are times where, unfortunately, I do think it is necessary, but I feel, yeah, like I said, last resort, so I feel everything else should be tried first before you attack someone, whether it's a person, a country, or whatever. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and bye.